Hi there, my name is Alexandra from Sesala DIY, and I've decided to start this YouTube channel because I wanted to share my passion for sewing, pattern making and DIY projects with you. In today's video, I've thought that it would be great to show you how you can make a swing dress. I knew that I wanted my dress to have long sleeves and a flouncy skirt. I love how it fits, and I also think that it's a lovely pattern suitable for many body shapes. Are you ready? Let's see what you'll need to sew this dress. I first started with a sketch. I used for this dress 3 meters of printed fabric, 2 meters of lining, thread, scissors and pins, the usual tools, and the pattern that I adjusted for my measurements. If this is something that it might be interesting for you to see, please let me know in the comment section below and I'll make another video special for how you can make a pattern for your own measurements. Now we can get to the sewing part. I started with the bodice of the dress. I placed the pattern on the wrong side of the fabric, folded in the middle and began to cut it. It already has seam allowances. I did the same for the back part of the bodice. Next, I cut the lining by placing the already cut pieces of fabric on the black cotton that I had for the lining. You can make it like this or use your pattern for this step. I start sewing the front and back darts for all the body pieces that I have. After I finish sewing the darts, I press them, and this is an important step that I will use for every single piece that I sew. Next is pinning and sewing together the bodies on the sides and the shoulders line. Press open the seam allowances for each part. Now it's time to align the face of the fabric with the lining. I start from the middle of the bodice and get my way up to the back of the dress. Align the corners of the square neck and the shoulders line. Sew them together, starting from the back of the bodice after you pin it. Be careful at the corner of the neckline. Stop and raise the presser foot and rotate the fabric at a 90-degree angle. Repeat the same technique for the other corner. Before we turn the fabric inside out, clip the corners of the neckline and don't forget to make some notches in the back because we have a curved seam. Now we can turn the fabric and I'll make an understitch to keep all my lining in place. Sew together the lining and the seam allowances of the neckline very close to the edge at 2 or 3 millimeters. Be careful at the corners, it might be tricky. Press the neckline and this is the look on the inside. Now we are ready for the sleeves. I pin them together, leaving a small opening of 8 centimeters at the bottom of the sleeve. After I sew them, I use my serger machine for a clean edge. Press the edge on one side at the bottom of each sleeve. We will have the opening that I mentioned before that will allow us to attach the cuff wrists. I choose to finish this opening by rolling the fabric 6 millimeters and sew it. But if you want, you can make a bias stripe to cover it. For the cuff wrists, I used fusible interfacing. Very soft because this is a light dress. And instead of making a buttonhole, I decided to close the cuff with a fabric loop. Sew the cuffs on one side and on the other side attach the fabric loop. Measure to be sure that your button can get through the opening of the loop. Hold it and sew it. Trim the extra fabric and turn the textile inside out. I use one of my scissors top blades to take the corners out. Use your iron to press the cuffs. Now I will make the gathers from the bottom of my sleeve. Sew 2 parallel lines at the bottom of the sleeve on the seam allowance. Make sure that your stitching length is at maximum. Start tugging the threads to gather the fabric. Pin the sleeve to the cuff. And sew it. Turn the cuff inside out, pin it, and sew it again. I will sew another double stitching at the cape of the sleeve to make another gather. Again, don't forget to increase your stitch length to the maximum. The sleeves look like this, ready to be attached to the bodice. For this step, I get the sleeve, which is on the right side out, and the bodice, that it's with the wrong side towards me, and I match the seam sides. I pin the cape of the sleeve, which I mark with a small notch to the shoulder seam. After that, I pin the rest of the sleeve to the armhole, joining all my previous cuts that I marked. I sew the sleeves to the bodice and clean the edge with my serger. The next part is the skirt. I cut the pieces that I need, 2 for the back and 1 front. I use almost the same pattern for the lining. The only exception is the front part that is smaller and it has darts. Pin and sew all the darts of the skirt and press them to one side. Now it's time for the pockets. I've decided to show you directly how I make the pattern of an inseam pocket. I fold the fabric in two and place my hand on the textile. I trace my hand as you can see in the video. I let the seam allowance of 1 centimeter where my hand should fit. I sew the pocket and use the serger for the edge. Let 1 centimeter on each side of the pocket opening without any stitch. That will help you when you will attach the pockets to the skirt. Pin the pockets on the right side of the fabric as you see in the video. After you sew it, flip the pocket over and attach it to the other right side of the textile. Now you can close the sides of the skirt. Sew until the beginning of the pocket, double stitch, stop and leave the presser foot. Move over the pocket opening and start again to sew. Be careful not to stitch the pocket's opening. Press open the seam allowances. You can even use the serger to finish the edges. But since I have a lining, I will not do that because I don't like to have too many unnecessary threads under my stitches. Sew the lining and press open the seam. I will attach the skirt to the bodice. I use a version of the back pattern to make the front part of the skirt, but without any darts. I will show you directly how I did my front pleat. First, I mark the front of the skirt and the bodice in the middle. Second, I align the side seams and back darts. But also the middle of the front skirt to the middle of the bodice. And third, the extra fabric that I had left, I folded, as you can see in the video. Pin it and sew it. Arrange the lining. And sew it to the dress. I finished the edge with my serger. If you don't want more threads in the waist area, you can skip this part. I recommend you make an understitch on the waist to keep everything in place. When you sew it, make sure to gather the lining and the seam allowances. As you can see, the lining of the dress looks fine on the inside. Ready to close the dress with an invisible zipper. I had to sew first the hem of the lining because I want to stitch the front of the fabric and the lining together with my serger. I use a 60 cm long zipper. I pin the right side of the zipper to the right side of the fabric. And sew it first with a regular presser foot. I repeat the process to the other side. Actually, I will stitch 2 times the zipper to the dress. First time with a regular presser foot, the second time with the invisible zipper foot. I will fold inside the ends of the zipper. And make a stitch on top. Sew what's left open below the zipper and close the skirt. Be careful not to stitch the zipper. Press open the seam. And the final step, sew the hem of the skirt and press it. And this is it. I really love how this dress turned out. What do you think? I'm sure that I will wear it many times during this spring. You can use the same techniques also for other projects. And I'm curious to see how your projects turn out. If you have any questions or suggestions, I would love to hear them in the comment section below. I'll post each week new exciting design ideas. So don't forget to subscribe for more. Until next time, let's find inspiration.